Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to build a really wholesome, foundational understanding of a concept that is absolutely making waves right now. But it often gets buried in super confusing technical jargon. We're talking about agentic automation. So our goal today is to literally cut right through all those buzzwords and reveal what this actually means for beginners all around the world. By the end of this explainer, you're going to see how a pretty simple shift in how software works is basically changing the entire game for how we design systems.
Okay, let's dive into this instantly by comparing two totally different ways of getting things done. Think about your regular traditional automation like a train stuck on fixed tracks, right? Once that route is set, sure, it can move incredibly fast, but it absolutely cannot decide where to go next. If there's a blockage on the tracks, it just stops. Now, contrast that with agentic automation. It's much closer to a really savvy street vendor. Like imagine a busy vendor in the bustling streets of Karachi, who actively notices what customers are asking for, adjusts their cart setup, and changes their whole plan in real time based on their environment. The train just executes a route, but the vendor actually adapts to reality.
Section 1. Beyond fixed scripts and adapting to the messy real world.
Because, let's face it, most traditional automation relies on these perfectly repeatable patterns, right? If this happens, do that. But real work is usually incredibly messy. Inputs change all the time, the context shifts, and the next best action isn't always perfectly obvious. We need software that can handle the ambiguous, shifting realities of our daily tasks without just breaking down. Which brings us to this incredibly punchy realization: action without decision is just motion. Think about that. A system can do a million things a second, but if it only waits for a trigger and runs a predictable sequence, it's really just spinning its wheels. Agentic automation is a game changer because the system can actually evaluate the situation and decide which action makes sense in that exact moment. It acts with purpose.
Think of a busy office setting to picture this. A non-agentic process is literally just a static sign on the wall that says, "Send everyone to room 3. It doesn't matter who walks in, the output is exactly the same. But an agentic system, that's the busy receptionist who intelligently notices whether the person walking through the door is a high-value client, a delivery driver dropping off a package, or a job applicant. And then they route them entirely differently. The receptionist isn't acting randomly. They are dynamically matching the action to the specific situation.
Section 2. Tasks versus decisions. Moving from execution to judgment.
This is really the boundary line between a simple script and an actual agent. There's this great quote that sums it up. A task is a fixed move. A decision is a choice among moves. Let that sink in for a second. A task is super simple. Read this, copy that, send an email. But a decision means the system first has to ask itself, okay, what is happening right now? What actually matters here? And what should happen next? It's not just executing anymore, it's interpreted.
It's exactly like cooking. Throwing a teaspoon of salt into a pot because step 4 of the recipe tells you to do it, that's just a task. But actually tasting the curry to decide if it needs salt or if the real problem is that it needs more acid or heat or time, now that requires actual judgment. If a machine only ever performs a task, it might flawlessly execute the completely wrong thing if the situation has subtly changed.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that machines, and honestly humans too, cannot make these judgments without context. A task can be triggered by a raw piece of input, sure, but a decision demands context. It's just like how you can't accurately interpret a text message from a friend without knowing who sent it, what you were just talking about, and the general vibe of your relationship. An agentic system needs to assemble a full picture of the situation to make a genuinely good choice.
Section 3. The agentic decision loop and staying in the conversation with reality.
So you're probably wondering, how do we actually give a system context so it can make these decisions? Well, we give it a loop. And this loop proves that these agents aren't magic at all. They are just highly logical. Step 1, they sense. They notice what is happening. Step 2, they decide. They choose a move based on their specific goal. Step 3, they act, creating a physical or digital change in the world. And step 4, this is the big one, they update. They learn from the result of their action, even if it's just to figure out what to do in the very next moment.
You can totally see why this continuous loop is so powerful. Sensing prevents blind, reckless action. Deciding turns raw information into clear direction. Acting creates the necessary change. And updating, that is what actually makes the system adaptive. A fixed automation basically reads the script once and just goes. But an agent reads the situation, chooses, acts, and then reads the situation all over again.
Section 4.
fitting into real workflows, hybrid systems in practice.
All of this sounds amazing, but how does this actually work in a real business environment? The truth is, an agent is rarely the entire system. It's usually just a thinking layer embedded inside a much larger chain of events. A really brilliant way to visualize this is to separate structure from judgment. Think of a hospital. The workflow is the physical hospital building, the organized triage rules, the strict sequence of how patients get processed. That's the body of the system. But the agentic part is the judgment. It's the specific decision center figuring out if the patient walking in right now needs a simple bandage for a scrape or an immediate x-ray for chest pain. The workflow provides the robust structure, and the agent provides the flexible judgment inside that structure.
And breaking it down this way brings a lot of comfort to system designers, honestly, because it proves that agentic workflows are not pure chaos. They are a carefully crafted hybrid. Repeating, highly predictable steps are still best handled by fixed automation. But the second you hit ambiguous inputs, that's when you tag in agentic decision-making. If it's a safety-sensitive action, you stick to strict rules and human review. Good design isn't asking, how much can the AI do? It's asking, where should judgment be allowed and where must structure stay fixed?
This also reminds us of a really important constraint. Agents don't have to solve the entire business problem on their own. Very frequently, their only job is literally just to reduce uncertainty. By simply asking, okay, what is this situation really? They narrow down the options so the rest of the fixed workflow can do its job properly. Like, is this incoming email an angry customer complaint, or is it a routine vendor invoice? Just figuring that out is incredibly valuable.
Think of this process like a water filter in your home's plumbing. The filter doesn't create the water, and it definitely doesn't decide where the sink is. It just removes the debris and the ambiguity so the next stage of the workflow can run cleanly and without getting completely clogged up.
Section 5. Designing with confidence and the power of the handoff.
Knowing a system's limits is what actually makes it trustworthy, because any serious system eventually runs into a limit, right? Too much ambiguity, too much risk, or simply way too high a cost if it makes a mistake. A smart agentic system, like a bank's fraud detection workflow for instance, knows this. It doesn't act blindly. It evaluates the data and basically says one of three things. 1, I'm confident, proceed with the automation. 2, I'm uncertain, let me ask the user for a bit more context. Or 3, crucially, this is completely outside my scope, I need to hand this off to a human. That ability to smoothly hand off control isn't a failure. It is the absolute hallmark of intelligent, reliable system design.
And that changes how we look at everything moving forward. So I want to leave you with a final question to take back to your own daily life and your own business. Stop asking, can AI do this task? Instead, look closely at your own processes and ask yourself, where in my work is structure enough and where is decision-making actually needed? Because once you can answer that, you aren't just using tools anymore, you are designing the future of your work. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the right questions.